we are going to this afternoon, we are going to look at the plan. We're going to talk about resources, what is changing, what is not changing. I'm going to go through the demo. The demo is going to include options under the Manage tab, which is really the data management area, and that is addresses, chart of accounts, fields, header 1 and header 2. We're going to talk about approval rules and approval profiles. And then in general, how to download data, how to export it to Excel. And then, of course, at the end, we'll have questions. Nice Q&A session. So the plan is that on day 1, you will have access to data management for your organization. And then starting tomorrow morning, you will have access to data management in the training environment. So I really recommend, once you get the email telling you how to log in, where to go to log into the training environment, if you're not already in there, to take advantage of this opportunity. And reach out to me if you have any questions. Next, I'd like to talk about what resources are available. We have, I have put together some quick steps. The quick steps include how to manage addresses, how to manage your allocations, the chart of accounts, and the fields on the requisition, the approval rules, which is just basically workflow, and then also how to make updates. We have 2 fields set aside at the header level, header 1 and header 2, how to make updates to those 2 fields. So I do have quick steps. Right now, I'm going to send them to you in an email after this session. And then later on, after go live, I'm going to find a spot to park them in the report and resource center under documents. But that's going to be just a little bit later. But again, you're getting these in an email after today. There's also an asset to manage the chart of accounts and data. And that is under review by InfoPro and CGI. They're working on that. I did a round of reviews and they are working on finalizing that asset for you. We also are going to have video links from today's training session, and then also a short little video on how to export data from this user interface that we're seeing into Excel. So we do have that coming for you, that link in an email. And then, of course, I want to remind you again, can't say it enough, eVA Security is here for you, myself and Sherry, and your account executives are here for you. Again, either with questions, either with help walking you through step by step, or processing your requests for you. So we are absolutely here for you. The next thing on the agenda is what is not changing. What is not going to change? So the responsibilities of the data management users, global security, procurement directors, eVA leads, and account executives are going to remain the same. Those are in place. Your ability to manage your client data, that is going to remain. The ability to set rules, signer rules at the client level and at the BSO level, that's going to remain the same. We've actually given you more power and more control in those areas. Really exciting. The steps for those of you, not all of you are going to be doing approval rules, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But those of you who are, the process is going to remain the same. So if you're going to set an approval rule off of a cost code, you're going to make sure, or another accounting code, you're going to make sure that code is in the system. Then you're going to make sure we have created an approval profile, which is a role. You're going to make sure that's in the system as well. And then you're going to create the approval rule and then assign the associated role or approval profile to the user. Those steps are going to be the same, regardless of what platform we're in. We will be following the same steps. All that's changing is the tool. So I like to use this little analogy where we have a car today. We've had it for 20 plus years. And in November, we're getting a new car. And it's a brand new car, lots of upgrades, great features. And so even though we have a new car, the rules of the road are still going to remain the same. So those policies, procedures are going to stay the same. The only thing changing is the vehicle that we're using on the road. So let's talk about what is changing. So this is really exciting changes. Let's start off with terminology. So we do have some terminology changes. We have today, or actually November 1st in the new platform, we will have approval profiles. And those are basically the approval roles today. We have approval rules today, and those are equivalent of signer rules and the BSO rules, the $1, $2, $3, commodity, kind of anything that you would have firing off at that BSO level. So those are approval rules. We've got chart of accounts elements. That is, and it's also referred to as allocation level. Today we just call those fields. And then chart of accounts, allocations. That is field data. What we call today is field data. Sites, you may have heard this previously, is what we call today BSO, buy, censor, department. And then client, we use either entity or organization on the new platform. So those are just some terms and a little bit of a crosswalk to let you know kind of what's changing and what you're going to see that's different. Some really good things that are changing is that what you're doing is going to all be in real time. We don't have to have the overnight cycle anymore, where it's moving from one application to another application and updating there. Everything is in real time, real fast, really easy to get your job done. Bam. Data management access has changed. So I really want you guys to listen up here and listen to how it's changed. So today, data management is divided out into kind of subcategories, and you have access to the subcategories of being able to manage addresses, being able to manage your chart of accounts, or being able to manage signer rules. In the new platform, you will have access in data management to do all of those options. However, as I mentioned previously, your responsibilities aren't changing. So if today you're only managing addresses, you only would manage addresses. You're not going to manage workflow or the chart of accounts information. Same thing for the chart of accounts. You're managing that data. You're not going to manage addresses or workflow. And then the same if you're managing workflow today, if you're only managing workflow, you will not be managing the chart of accounts data or addresses. So I just want to remind you folks that even though you see more and you have more gates open to you, you should still stay in the area that you have been granted access, that your procurement director wants you to make changes to. And so as a reminder, when you are only authorized to make changes to any requisition fields, the fields themselves, turning on or off fields, or changes to workflow, or any changes to the BSOs, adding, editing, removing a BSO as directed by your procurement director. So your procurement director or eVA lead is going to give you that information. They are going to set their policies and procedures and then apply them to eVA. So you will take any direction from either your procurement director or eVA lead. One thing that's changing is the approval role. That is going to now no longer have the client ID. We no longer need to recreate the same role in every client. Now the role can be shared because the technology is smarter, where the technology looks and it first looks to see what client you're in and then looks at the role. So it will only go to you if that role is in use at that client. So it's a smarter technology. What's really nice is that we now have less roles in the system. It's really great technology. Another thing in the workflow, for those of you who are familiar with the rule token, what that is just saying in what order the different signer rules or the different rules set at the BSO level when they are going to fire in the workflow. Currently, that is 1 through 99. In the new platform, that's 1 through 999. So when I talked about growth earlier, obviously, clearly, this is set up for growth, right? Clearly, a lot more room to grow. For those of you who are doing signer rules, and we have a little bit smaller of a pool who are going to be doing the signer rules. Currently, we set the dollar amount usually if you're setting it at to include anything from $0 or above, you're going to set the dollar amount at 0 in the current platform. In the new platform, we're actually going to do a negative, and then we're going to set that to 9 nines, and I'm going to show you that in the demo. And so what that does is if there's a negative on a change order, it will that change order will be pulled into the workflow. So that's why we're going to do that. It's really kind of neat. And then I just want to talk about a couple things. Access to either create, edit, or modify sites. That's BSOs. That, if you need that to be done, please reach out to your account executive, and then they'll put in a JIRA ticket. And this is for Go Live. Just at Go Live, this application will be rolled out at a later date. When it is rolled out, we will hold a separate training. We will come back together as a group and we will walk through that just like we are doing today. Also, the ability to create approval profiles. Those are the roles again. That access just at Go Live is going to be your DPS account executive. Reach out to your account executive. They will enter in a JIRA ticket to get those processed. After Go Live, this will be rolled out. And then again, we will have a separate training where we will discuss this. But right now, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of roles. So I think you'll find something in there that it will be helpful. And then just talking about bulk loads are now ETL files. At Go Live, if you need to make any mass updates, for example, you need to make a mass update to a lot of addresses, changes to addresses, or add a lot of new addresses. Same thing with chart of accounts, any type of accounting detail. You've got a big volume. Please send that to your account executive. They'll be able to put in a JIRA ticket and get that loaded in for you. And then that's going to be at Go Live. And then sometime after Go Live, this is going to be rolled out. This option is going to be rolled out. And then again, we'll get together for a separate training and we'll walk through this together as a group. So we've got some things coming as well, but we've got a lot in place. There's really a lot to learn and there's a lot of neat things as well. So right now I'm going to pop over. We're going to do the demo. As you can see, I am on the kind of the landing page, if you will, what I like to call it. And just one little tip in here. As we get started, I've mentioned that you have access to the training environment. As you get started, after we go live, please practice any changes you're going to make, any adds, edits. We're kind of changing statuses instead of actually deleting things. We're going to go through that in the demo. But practice that in the training environment first. Make sure it's working the way you envisioned. And then go ahead, some of these actions you want to take off hours, for example, if you're changing workflow or making changes to field data as far as actually fields. But do that practice first. I think that's going to be a really best practice is to try it first in the training. Training is set up to mirror, right? It was a conversion activity. So it's really so close to production that you can really make these changes and you can keep it to match production if you would like. Let's go ahead. Let's dive in. Okay. And remember, guys, as you are looking at this, you are receiving training and different people are going to pull different information. So we've got different groups here who are using data management to manage different areas. So just because I'm showing you signer rules, your procurement director may or may not want you to have access to that area or editing the fields on the requisition. So please stay to the current access that you have and perform those operations. If you have any questions, please reach out to your procurement director. So let's go ahead. We are going under the manage tab. So everything we're doing is living there. We have access to view users and contacts here. So you have access just as a view informational. But really today we are going to go in from addresses. We're going to talk about approval rules, these header fields. We're going to go in the chart of accounts and then maintain chart of accounts elements. I mentioned later that the ETL console, that will be something we will come together again as a team and we will train on. And I will also have quick steps for the things that are coming along as well. So let's go back up to the addresses. And so as you can see here, actually, now that I'm doing the demo, let me move this around a little bit, some things out of the way so you can see a little bit better. All right. So addresses, we come in here. What's really a great feature about this platform is if you've done other searches in different areas, or if you had access to user management, you have the same type of search. Anytime you go into a tab and you go into an area under that tab, you are given the option to search for keywords and then different fields that are available, as you can see here from left to right. There's also an advanced search as well, and an option to expand, and then you can also collapse it or pin it if you'd like. So right now I'm in the A194 Department of General Services client. As we see here, I could do a search for an address. If I wanted to use, mainly I'm going to do the keyword, or I can also from here, I wanted to look for the site or the BSO, that's listed here. And then I could do a search and then it will come back to the addresses that are available. I'm just going to take that off. Here we have an option to edit and delete. We are going to actually delete the status actually in the record rather than from this line here. We have the organization. If your agency is using the ERP, if they are doing that, there is a field, it will show here. The address ID, these are coming in from, these look familiar. These are the current address IDs that came in with the import. We have an address label, which is really a title. This is the title that folks were seeing on the current platform. They would only see a title. Today, they get to see, when they create the requisition, more information. So that's really nice. Then we have the address line 1 and 2. So you've got 2 lines there. City, county, when it was created, the type, as we know, there's a ship to and a bill to. There's a main address, but we are not going to use that. So these are the fields that you can search on. For here, let's go in and let's create an address. And let me show you how to do this. So right now, you're going to select your organization. You can add a phone number if it's shared. So if this address was for one user, we could put in a phone number. If this address was used by multiple users, then we would probably want to do a shared phone number or leave it blank. The same thing applies to email. So then we're just adding in here if it's a ship to or bill to address. Then again, if you are already using the ERP address, your agency is already leveraging an ERP system, and this is a required field, you'd enter it here. We're not going to select that main address. We're not using that. What's really nice is there's a nice little map if you wanted to zoom in and select an address, or you can come down to the address line 1 and 2. So the address label again is a title. So I may say Patrick Henry Building, and then maybe 7th floor, something like that. Just a real nice title. If I only see this field, then I know exactly where this is going. Here, as you can see how nice this is, it starts to uh, to fill in and give you suggestions. And it is not, there we go. So it filled in that, and then it filled in the zip code for me, the city, the country, and the state, which is really nice. If you know that 4-digit ID, that is right now, that's not going to be an option, but we are looking for a later option with that. So, but this is what we have here. And then you can go ahead and click save. Great. And you get a cute little message, data has been saved. I'm going to go ahead and close it. And so you would just repeat that for, we did a ship to, we could do a bill to, same process, really easy. Next thing we want to do is come in, if you need to edit an address, you go ahead and you just click on the little pencil. Anytime you see a pencil in the new platform, it means to go ahead and make an edit. So maybe we want to take away the phone number, and we want to change the zip code. Maybe the zip code needed to be updated. So we have, as you can see on an edited one, one that's been created already, we have the created on and modified. So we get some nice little information there on who made the change. And then we can click save. And we get a cute little message, data has been saved. So you can do an edit. And then let's talk about, all right, well, let's do a cleanup. So if this address is no longer in use, what we're going to do is select the status to deleted, and then we can click save, and we get that nice little message. And then from here, we can search actually on the advanced search. We could search for the different addresses. So if we wanted to narrow them down, we also have at the bottom of the page the ability to export. So if I click on this toggle, I can turn different fields on and off. And then I can go down to the bottom and I can download this table, and it will give me a nice little list of addresses. And just give me a little second here to pull this up. And it gives me a nice little Excel document, which that's something I'm working on. Here we go. There we go. So it's giving me an Excel document with that information of the addresses where I can, do any, take any other actions or save it. It's really nice feature to be able to do that. So from here, we've talked about addresses. We've talked about searching, creating, editing, how to delete or kind of deactivate. And then we have talked about how to export the data. So that's really quite easy. And it's very, very similar to what we're doing today for addresses. Now let's talk requisitions. So let's go to chart of accounts data, and I'm going to show you some information for those of you who will be, this area is definitely a proceed with caution, but any changes here will change the requisition layout. So just, you want to make sure that this is done off hours and that the procurement director has told you to do this and that users are made aware of the changes you're going to make. So we're going to come in here. Each client has this already set up. So it's only going to be an edit. You're not going to touch anything in the top section that just shows the chart of accounts, just tells you the entity and the status, and then all the BSOs listed under the client. Excuse me. Listed below, these are the chart of accounts allocation levels, also known as fields on a requisition. These are the ones that are in play today. You wanted to add another one, you would come down here, scroll through the list and find it, highlight it, and it's added. To make a field required or not required, you would come here, click on the checkbox under required next to the allocation level or field. And then if you wanted to deselect, you could. So those are how you enable and turn off if a field is required, or you enable or remove fields. So this is how the area you come to control the fields that are showing on a requisition, if they are required. And that means that when a user creates the requisition, they're required to select data, input data in that field. Here we also have the toggle. So if you wanted to download the allocation levels, you could, and you could export those to Excel. So that is how you control the requisition, the fields that are available, that are showing on the requisition. So I'm just going to close this. I'm not going to make any changes here. And so now for those folks who are managing and entering chart of accounts, you would come down to maintain chart of accounts elements. As you can see here, what's nice is we only have a few available, 7. So what's showing, it doesn't show you all of the chart of accounts, all of the fields on a requisition. It is showing you them individually and the ones that are enabled for your client, which I think is a lot nicer. It's a nicer feature. It's visible. Before it was a drop-down menu and you selected and you inputted the data. So here I could just come in, select the customer. So we're going to look at the customer. I can do what I call the basic search or an advanced search, just pretty much just giving you the organization. But I want to show you, if the search you're performing doesn't have enough options, always click on the little filter here and see if there's more that's available. So just remember, wherever you are on the new platform, in the new platform, click on that little filter, and what it will do is give you more advanced search options. So right here, we have a little search. We could do status. We could see if something's deleted or basically valid is active. So it's saying add a new customer because that is the field that I am creating. So we're coming in here, and the code. Now this is the code here is required field, but this is an internal eVA platform, new platform code. This is not the accounting code. That is in the value. So for here, I would do A194, and let's say the customer code was 8900. Then I would add that there. This is the field where its actual code goes in the value. And then the label might be customer code, might be customer, I don't know, 10. That's the description. What you're using today, that's your description of your accounting code. Then we're going to come over here to the right, select the organization. As you can see here, you only have access to the organizations that are under your purview. So for example, Department of General Services, that's just one. But if you were in the Department of Corrections, the community colleges, you're going to have all the other values listed in your drop down. Upon create, it's going to be set to value. So I'm going to do save. And so it says a nice little message, the data has been saved. So I'm going to go back to the browse this customer page. And let's talk about editing. So what I'd really like for you to do is you can edit from here, but as a best practice, let's click on that pencil. So if I needed to change the label, I could come in here and change the label, the description of the accounting code. And then if I need to delete or remove this from folks viewing, then I would come in here and click deleted and save. And then that way it's no longer an option on requisitions for buyers to select. Again, I mentioned when we first got together that updates are done in real time. So this is all just real time, no overnight syncs or anything like that. It's really quite fantastic. So we'll go back to the customer. So we talked about a little bit about searching. We talked about adding a new code, and we talked about editing. And then, as you can see here, it's, excuse me, in a deleted status. You could, let's say somebody did a change order, they needed that code. You could, and I didn't mean to select it from here, but it was just a thought that came through. You can, the point is to make an account or to make the code valid, you can come in here and select that option. So you do have that, which is really nice. Definitely something we did not have before. So let's go back to maintain chart of accounts. And so anything else that I select is going to work the same way. These are all sort of twins. They're all going to work the same way. You saw me click on the back button. That will take you back. That's a nice new feature we have as well. So that is how to manage the requisitions, the fields on the requisitions, if they're required or not, and then how to add your chart of accounts, your accounting information, updates, or make any changes there. So now let's go into, I want to show you header 1. So this is another field on a requisition. If you are saying to yourself, I'm not familiar with this, there's a very small group of organizations, clients, entities who are using this. So they're already aware, they're doing this, they're just continuing this practice. And so this is going to work very much like the other fields in that you have the option to create a new one. Here you don't have to do the A194 to get the code. It's an internal code. It's not shown on a requisition, but you can come in. Let's say the code I need to enter is 609. I'm going to put a label, maybe a bus, and then the status leave to valid, organization, Department of General Services, value is at 609 again, and click save, the save button, or save and close. And so it's as easy as that to update that information. And then if you needed to edit it, you could come in and click the pencil. Remember, pencil anywhere is an edit. Very consistent across the whole platform. I could change this to car, and I could do a save. And then if I no longer need this field, this specific code, then I select the status of deleted, save and close, and it's still going to remain here in deleted. So it's not a physical delete, it's a logical delete, which again is fantastic. So with that, I would like to go kind of to the star of the show and go to approval rules. Super exciting, super powerful, super easy to use. For those of you who are using this, you can come in here and let's talk about, we've got a search here. What I did for this one is I clicked on the filter and then the thumbtack to keep it here. So if I wanted to search through signer rules here on the new platform, this list will include BSOs and sites, and then also the signer rules that are at the client level, the high level client level as well. So it's giving you every rule is going to be in this pile here, which is fantastic. So we can do a search. We can do the basic search. We can come in here and say, all right, what scenario am I looking for? Is there this approval rule? Is there a supplier that this is connected to? What kind of requisition types? We can look on commodity codes to see what signer rules are using that commodity code, or a contract, SWAM categories, procurement transaction type, purchase category, requisition type, if a P card, no P card, all these scenarios. If it's using a certain cost code, I can do a search on all these rules to see if it's utilizing or an allocation. I can do the search in here. So this is really a great way to search through rules, the advanced, and you can pin it like I said, you can do a keyword search. If you have more than one, you can do, for example, you can look at a BSO and see all the rules that are associated with that BSO. You can also search and do your entire client. You can also look if you know the approval profile and click on that and enter that and search to see which rule is utilizing that approval profile. There is a type which is really not so much that we're going to use right now, maybe later. You can see status and then the ones that are deleted. As you can tell to date in this training, when we remove something from the system, we really are changing a status, not just clicking a trash can and then crossing our fingers because it's gone out in the universe forever. We are really changing statuses now. What I really like about this feature is the order. And so the order now is the rule token. And I mentioned that previously. So for example, if I want to say what fires after rule token 70, I can search and it will give me everything that fires afterwards. I can sort it in what order and it will show. So I think that's really powerful as well. It's really neat. As you can see here, when I scroll down, we have the toggle that's available again. Really nice that this is consistent throughout everything that we're using. For those of you who have user management, it's also available. Again, I can select which columns I want in my export, and then I can come down here and I can export it into an Excel format and have all of this information in Excel. So that's nice as well. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to do a reset. I want to also take away certain variables that are filters. I can come down to this line below, click on the X, and it removes them. As you can see here, there is a checkbox, limit to my organization. It's not going to allow you to deselect that because you've been assigned your organizations. Most of you, it's just going to be one. And so you'll have access to the BSOs and then the organization underneath. So let's talk about new rules. So with this, if you can order, honestly, if you can order off of DoorDash or Uber Eats, you can set up a rule. So it's really easy. So let's talk about this. First, this is kind of the landing page for the rule itself. What's nice is over to this left here, it's going to take us, we've got 3 tabs and it's almost like a wizard. So we're starting off at this header tab. Then we go into the allocations, which we just learned is chart of accounts. And then approvers. This is where we're going to add the approval profiles. So I've already discussed this originally in the process that we're doing today. This wizard here is taking us through that same process and applying it in the new platform. So first we come in here, we're doing a brand new rule. We're going to select the type. And so really for right now, there's all these different organizations in here, but you're going to select, you're going to input your, give me a second. I'm trying to talk and type. I wasn't too successful. Not, there we go. Select your organization. That's always what you're going to have in place. The quick steps will address this. Then next is the order. You've got a little hover over here. It tells you up to 3 digits, right? Because we know that now your order can be anywhere from 1 to 99. And the order is the sequence in which your client approval roles and your BSO approval roles, they're mixed together in the order that they fire in a workflow. So I'm going to say here, I want this one to fire at 80. I'm going to come down here and I am going to do a cost code. Cost code, I'm going to do cost code 609 approver must approve. Oops. And what this is really doing here is when we went out on the other page, you could simply see the rule description. And this should just be simply letting you know what this rule does. We can obviously open up this page, read through here, but this is a nice little hint about what it is, what this rule is going to do. We can now select our options. So right now, we're going to either do a confirming order or purchase order. So we select which one we want. We're not going to use that DPS administrative request. That is going away. So it's either purchase or confirming order. So then we have scenarios that we can include. We wanted a SWAM category. We could do that. An asset flag. We're going to bypass status because that's going to be valid. We could say this is where we select the P card, no P card, bypass integration if we want this all to be included. And then maybe we say, oh, well, no, we could set this up to exclude a scenario as well, where it would not go for approval if certain conditions were met. So maybe if this was a micro, then I would say, exclude that it does not need to go for approval if it comes to the SWAM category of micro. So if it is cost code, we'll get cost code 609 added. So anything that goes to cost code 609 is a purchase order or confirming order. Anything that's a micro business meets all of these scenarios and criterias, then it would not go to someone to approve. So that's what that excluding means. So now let's go over to the organization. Again, this is where I want you to come in as a best practice to select all. We've got two different places here. We've got some areas really. You can either do the entity level, or, and I'm going to come back around, or you can do the BSO. You can select either the organization or the BSO. So those of you who remember doing, making an update to a BSO where you did the $1, $2, or $3 approver or commodity, this is where now you can come in here and select rules that weren't available before. Now you can create anything that will just fire off just a BSO or a site, which is super, super powerful. So for this example, I'm just going to use an organization. This is something new to us. Threshold, I mentioned before that we're going to start doing this negative, and then we'll do 9 nines. And then the threshold. So let's say today I was doing 0 to infinity. So we would do again 9 nines. And so this is really what is showing that basically anything from 0 to infinity, this rule will be applied for any dollar amount. I also have different scenarios. I can pull in only if it's a certain supplier, only if it's a certain registration type, purchase category, procurement transaction type, contract, commodity. I can also set this signer rule to fire off the header field that we just saw, or the header field too. So really you're building your own signer rule based on all these different options. So I gave the analogy of food, ordering food. You go to a web app, right? If you want a hamburger, the next thing they tell you, do you want ketchup? Do you want mustard? Do you add it? Do you remove it? The possibilities are truly endless now because you can do all of these different variables in one signer rule. This is not something that was available in the current platform or would have ever probably grown to. So this is just such an amazing enhancement feature. I'm really, really excited about it. It's so much easier. And it's all in real time, folks, all in real time. So we've set here the rule information. Let's go now, because I said it was based on an allocation. Let's go over to the allocation. So let's first do save and then go to the allocations. And now we see the allocations. And here's the cost center. So I'm going to do the 609. I did the search and I found my 609. And so you see here the toggles. Anytime you see a toggle, you can download data. So I've set my accounting code that this is going to fire off of. And then now I can go in and look at approvers. So the approval profile. So here I am going to, I know that that cost code 609, this would be an approval role. Today, what this looks like is that this code would say A194CC609, and you would add it here. So just remember that standard naming convention with the agency ID is no longer needed. This is so much more manageable. This gives us so much more options, more flexibility. It's a lot easier. So once I click on the save button, after I click on, after I select the approval profile, once I click save, any requisition that meets the criteria set in this signer rule, it will fire. So if somebody went ahead and created a requisition that meets it, it's going to pull this in. So what I would suggest and what we're doing today is before we create a signer rule, we have roles assigned to users. That's what we do today. So just make sure that's in place. If you save it without this approval profile here, then it's not going to fire. So really, this is kind of the last turn on switch, is really clicking the save and coming in here and putting in the internal profile. So I'm going to do a save and close. And so now I can come in and let's see here. What do I want to search for? Let me do see all. And I want to show you when you do searches in here, we want to use the organizational hierarchy, and it gives you these little drop down menus. You could do a keyword search, or I could just come here, and this includes all of the client. And I could do close, and it will insert all those BSOs and sites. And then I can come up here and do a little search. And that's basically what was shown originally on the landing page. So that is what you were seeing. So let's say we need to come in and I've received a request to edit the DPS admin. What I want to show you here is this great new feature. When you update a rule, you come in, you click the toggle, update approval rule. You can put in here the reason for the change, what's changing, and who approved it. And so it will stay in here. These are kind of a sticky note. We have a log that will tell us who made what changes and what changes were made. But because there are more than one, we have some clients who manage this data. We have account executives who can come in here. We have account executive as a backup as well. So this is almost like a nice little sticky note. Hey, I was just in here doing this. And then you would make that change. So maybe I said here that I no longer want purchase orders. Then I click save, and it saves the reason, the last change in time, and the modified by. This will actually be a person. This eVA Security is a little test account that I like to use for training, but it would actually say a person. And so that is what happens when you would like to update a rule. The next step is you say, all right, we no longer want this rule. What do? Well, you go search for the rule, find the rule, and then the status, you would come down here and select deleted, click save, and then so this rule is no longer going to fire. What's in play will play out, all the requisitions, but anything new will not have this rule fire. So that is my example. Just give me 1 second. Let me make sure. I want to make sure I covered everything here. And so I want to show you something else. Let's go back and come here. And so what I want to do is now I am going to, let's see, I would like to do, let's see, do a little search by the BSO. See if we can here put in the organization, toggle on, and then turn on all these toggles. If you want to make sure that if you want to see what approval roles are being used by either at the client level or at the BSO site level, this is the approval profiles. And I just wanted to make sure that you saw. So here we have the ID, which is just an internal number. This is the order, which today would be the rule token. All the categories, these are all approvals. Organization, this is showing a BSO. On this BSO, these are all the different, we've got commodity approvers in here. Now, these are coming over during conversion, right? This is what we call them today. But if you wanted to modify them and say commodity code, put in the commodity code, approver must approve, you could do that as well. Really, the rule description is what's meaningful to you to easily manage your roles. And then these are associated roles. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out to you. So now, so that's kind of wrapping up my demo portion of this. Now, just kind of closing this out, we talked about the rollout plan. We talked about the resources, what is changing, what's not changing. I went through a demo, and then now we're going to get into the questions. So before I kind of cut over to that, I just want to remind you again, you're not alone. You're not alone in this. You need any help whatsoever, I'm here. I've worked with a lot of you. You know that you can reach me, phone, email. We will walk through this together. Sherry is also available. Your account executives are available to walk you through. And then if you don't feel comfortable with making these changes or accessing this area, your account executives can process this for you as well. But I think once you get into the training environment, you start making these changes, you look at the data, you see how it converts, you see that it's familiar, you start walking through the quick steps that I'm going to send out to you. Maybe you watch the recording again, but I think then you will really see how easy this is to drive through these areas. So before we started questions, I wanted to do that. Benita, if you just wanted to